Dr. Vichin sir will introduce you.
This call is now being recorded.
Please, sir.
Good afternoon to one and all participants. Today amongst us for the afternoon session we have Dr. R.K. Dwivedi sir with us from MNIT Bhopal. Dr. Dwivedi has spent 15 years with Indian Air Force, around 1.5 years in sugar industry and contributed 25 years in academics and research with MANT Bhopal since 1995. Sir has started working in additive manufacturing since 2007 and has developed in-house central facility for the institute named as Additive Manufacturing and Reverse Engineering Lab, which caters the academic and research requirements of undergraduate, postgraduate and research projects of MNIT Bhopal. Sir has done his BE honors in mechanical engineering from SATI Vidisha, MTech and PhD from MNIT Bhopal. He has published more than 60 research papers in peer-reviewed international, national journals and several conferences. He has supervised 2 PhDs and 4 PhDs are ongoing under his supervision. More than 35 MTech dissertations he has supervised and number of undergraduate projects. He has published 2 books and more than 10 book chapters, and there are 2 patents which are under his examination. He has given more than 50 invitee talks on additive manufacturing. He is editor-in-chief in AMSI General, which publishes the research articles related to additive manufacturing. Besides this, he is also an additive member of editorial board and reviewer of many reputed international journals. He has conducted several training programs on additive manufacturing for the audience of different level with the Association of MHRD, TechCube, AICT, and other renowned universities. He is expert member in number of top-notch professional competitive examinations organizations of the country. Recently, he's been jury member in national hackathon conducted by MHRD. He's also a life member of professional societies like IEI India, ISC chapter, IIIE, and AMSI. So with this brief profile of sir, I would welcome and request sir to take over this afternoon session. Welcome, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. So I hope I'm audible to everybody.
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I'm just sharing my window. I have window is, I hope window is visible to everybody. Is that okay? So that we can start the things.
Yes, sir.
Is it visible?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. That sounds nice. Well, I might I would like to stop my webcam because the internet condition is not that good here. So please allow me to stop my webcam first. So there we go. Well, this particular topic is regarding the medical application for 3D printing. I hope most of you are aware of the 3D printing, and today we will be discussing regarding the applications of the 3D printing, and I would be certainly going for the bioprinting also. A little bit introduction I will give for the bioprinting and how bioprinting is done and how medical printing is done, because just sharing the ideas with the applications of 3D printing will not work out, because until unless you get the interest and you should know the things how it is working, so that is more important and more essential. So I have made this particular PPT in such a way that you should get the interest towards the bioprinting and 3D print, medical applications of the 3D printing. So in order to get the interest only, I am just sharing this particular thing, and a couple of things I will be sharing. So let's go with this particular picture. Just to start with, how the significance, how the bioprinting significance, what is the significance of the bioprinting is there in 3D printing industry. So let's go through this particular picture. This is a unfortunate accident is there, and here he has a kind of a ribbed rectus femoral muscle bone, muscle problem is there. Missing skin, you can see here, missing skin is there. Tissue problem is there, and then the severely broken the femur bone or a femoral bone. So these are the things actually. So interestingly, just to start with this particular picture, the three problems we can see here, and all these problems can be sorted out with the help of the bioprinting these days. Now, although it is not much popular in India, in our country, but the things are going on. But in abroad or in developed countries, people have started taking the things like this in this way. So this was just the significance how it is how it can help to the medical things also. Now, healthcare, not only all these things only regarding the medical printing, there are different type of things are also there where the medical things can be taken up. Like applications are there, these applications like a surgical guide, we can develop the surgical guide, surgical implants, or the customized medical implants can be developed here. Surgical instruments also, a big industry is coming up these days for the surgical instruments, because doctors were having a lot of typical problem according to the problem of the patient. Some customized problems are there, so those customized problems can be sorted out with the customized surgical instruments also. So those are also very much coming up industries there. And the bioengineering, I would last but not least, this particular bioengineering is coming up very fast. And I show you some of the pictures, and we will discuss how it is helping. You will be wondering that this particular thing is helping in the medical diagnosis and all those things, even for the rectifications also. So there are typically there are different type of materials are there. We are using the biocompatible, but essentially these all materials are supposed to be the biocompatible. Sometimes we need the biocompatible material, sometimes we need the other added characteristics also in the material, like a biodegradable also it should be there, or sometimes the doctors ask for the material where the osteogenesis properties are there or osteoconductive properties are there. So accordingly we have to develop, we engineers are developing the material. So this particular material side, the people, those who are working in the material, it is a very good chance and very good, very nice opportunities are there to develop such kind of biocompatible materials which have got a different type of characteristics according to the requirement of the doctors or the medical for the medical people. And basically there are 3-4 type of technologies there. We will discuss one particular technology, or we will see how the medical printing is taken care. So I'll skip here for the things. Now let's see the drivers and restraints. What are the drivers are there, key drivers are there, and key restraints are there. Actually, the demand of the personalized medical device is the main driver, key driver these days for the medical printing, which is blooming like anything. And the technology advancement also, the reduction in time and cost also for the curing of the patient can be done with the help of the with the use of additive manufacturing or medical additive manufacturing. So this is a particularly in particular, I would say this is the this particular drive is just driving people crazy regarding the 3D medical bioprinting, and people are just turning towards it. Then the government funding is also a lot of government funding, and a lot of projects are being acknowledged or being introduced with for the medical purposes, and rise on medical application also, or different type of applications. One I have seen, one I have discussed with the picture, and another one in the previous slide we have discussed. So many applications are there, so those are actually key drivers. But there are the restraints are also there. There is a difference between the constraints and restraints. So I would love to tell that it is a restraint only, not the constraints. So high cost, it is a higher cost because the machines are too costly, and it is not easily affordable, in fact, and lack of trained professionals. So this is another problem. People are not taking up, or hardly there are the professionals available in this particular field. And stringent regulatory guidelines are also there. A lot of guidelines are there from the government side, because we have to work with the patient, and we have to work with the human being. So it is there are regulatory guidelines are also there, and they are very strict guidelines are there. It is very difficult to match with those things. Here I would like to show you some of the images, the work which has been done in around the world. So few particular pictures I have just collected. So this is the blood vessel also, and then prosthetics. I think Dr. Jain will be taking the regarding the prosthetics. Next lecture is there, so he'll be discussing more about it. And then there are the other applications also, and they have been successful. This I have taken from the successful case study of the 3D printing. Then there is a heart valve also. It has been developed in University of Pennsylvania. So heart valve has been developed. Even they have developed the 3D printed heart also. Although it is not functioning, but it is not in a functional condition, but for the learning purposes, all those things, and learning purposes, they are using it. So there are the cardiac models are also being developed with the materialists. So this particular thing also, it is used for the kind of medical colleges, because nowadays the bodies, as we all know, that bodies are not available for learning to the doctors. So mostly they are using the body organs printed by the 3D printing for their anatomy, to learn the anatomy of the human being. So this is kind of things. There are the bone implants. They can have the bone implants. It is we can see this is made of the stainless steel and mixed with the tungsten. So tungsten alloy. So these kind of a customized bone implants can be made. Ear cartilage, it is a very successful case study again, that the ear has been developed with the help of ear cartilage has been developed. There is a significant development in the skin also. So synthetic skin has been developed, and we will show you the skin pictures. A few more skin pictures I will show, and how they are developing. So that also we will today have the introduction about it, that how the skin cells can be developed, and how the cells can help us to go for the biocompatible. And there are the medical equipments, as I have discussed earlier. So basically, actually 3D printing technologies, they are usually the three type of technologies are being used. So for the beginners like you, if you are into the 3D printing, and if you have some small machine in your lab or at your home, you can also start developing some medical models with the help of the FDM technology, or fused deposition modeling. So this is a very easy, and for the beginners this is a very particular technology where they can start it and they can move on. Even I have also started from the same technology. Then there comes the selective laser sintering is there, and few are using the stereolithography. Selective laser sintering actually they are using when they have got the material in the form of the powder. So biocompatible powder actually they are developing, and this kind of powders can be developed. Although these selective laser sintering for the biocompatible materials are, again, it is a costly affair, but they are available. And stereolithography is most popularly and most commonly used, where they are using the resins or biocompatible resins, and with the help of the laser they are curing the photopolymer materials, photopolymer biocompatible materials they are using it. So it is being used in the dentistry. Orthodontics are also using, and most commonly it is being used, but is again it is a very costly. So the cost wise, if we say that this is the FDM is the cheapest one, then it comes the SLS and SLA, and this is the costliest one, the bioprinting. So these bioprinters are also available these days, and it is very interesting to know the bioprinters, how they work and how they will be, what kind of material they will be using. You will be amazed when I will introduce the things. Bioprinting, although it is not much available in our country, but I have visited few of the countries, and there I have seen people are using it very commonly. So before going towards the all these things, let us know how the medical printing works. So this is a very important to know, that how medical printing works. So before going into it, the procedure of the medical printing, we should know the little bit of the diagnosis techniques and their terminology. What terminology we will be using. So there is a diagnosis, three type of diagnosis techniques are there actually. One is known as a computed tomography, which use the X-rays. Another one uses the CBCT. It is the latest form of the computed tomography, and this is known as a cone beam computer tomography. This particular technology also uses the X-rays, and there is one interesting one is also there, MRI, which is MRI. This particular technique, rather than the X-rays, actually it is being used with the powerful magnetic field, and radio waves are being collected with the computer. Radio waves goes to the body and affected body, and it goes to the computer, and the 2D type of digital slices actually they come up. So what we get in return when we are dealing with these diagnosis techniques, so 2D digital X-rays we are getting, and when we join all these 2D slices, we will see. I'll show you the pictures of the 2D slices what we are getting from the diagnosis techniques. So those 2D slices, when they are stacked together, they make the 3D volume. In fact, if you are working in the 3D printing or the additive manufacturing, you must be knowing that after all, we essentially need to have the solid modeling of something which can be converted into .stl file. So similarly here also we get the results from the in the form of the 2D digital X-rays, and then we just digitally stack them with the help of softwares available these days. Lot many softwares, and some open source softwares are also available which can stack the 2D slices with what we are getting out of the diagnosis techniques. So these particular things are, and before going to the stack, after a stack, before going to the conversion of the .stl file, there are the gray values are also there, which comes into the existence. So these gray values actually they are known as a Hounsfield units. So this Hounsfield actually he was the researcher who has developed the computed tomography, and for segmentation you must have seen. Okay, I'll describe it a little more here. So you must have observed that whenever the X-ray is there, so there are some gray gray values are also there. Some portion is a gray, some is a dark, and someone is a some portion is a white kind of a thing. So those are actually known as a, those are segregated, or the segmentation can be done with the help of the Hounsfield units. So it is known as a HU unit. Now, there is another terminology which is the most common in the medical printing. So one which we have discussed here already, CT, CBCT, and MRI scan. Now the acquisition of these 2D slices, or the 2D digital slices what we are getting, those are known as a DICOM file. So DICOM, actually it is just like a standard file for the medical education, medical communication, just like our .stl file what we are using in the 3D printing. So DICOM files, actually they are the segmented file. After the segmentation and after the stack of the 2D digital slices, what we get, they result in the form of the DICOM files. So these DICOM files, actually we get it from the patient, through the doctor. We can collect it, and then we can convert it into the .stl format. So DICOM, there are the softwares, again there are the softwares available where we can collect, or we can convert them into the .stl file. So then thereafter we go for the evaluation of the design. Whatever the customized patient design is there, or the implant design is there, so we go for that also. And then surgical planning can be done. Interestingly, when you are using the 3D printing, medical 3D printing, then you can start with this particular phenomena, or this particular segment can work, where you can use the 3D printing, or the FDM models can be developed in your particular lab also. So there are the, if somebody is interested, I can give them some STL files, and they can develop and they can print also there. So this is a better way to start. This particular thing is a better way to start on the things. So I can supply few of the DICOM files also, and a few of the .stl medical file also. If you are interested, you can contact with me later on, and we can go for it. And then we go for the creation of the model and the validation. Now let's see how actually these CT and CBCT works. So we will be taking one particular example for the FDM case, because I would like that you should do it in your lab also. So I will be taking this particular case only. So CBCT, actually this is a scanner, and how it works, in fact, let us see how it works. Actually, CT scan is an X-ray procedure that creates cross-sectional images with the help of the computer processing. So essentially the computer processing is there, and CT scan images are more detailed than the conventional X-ray images. This can be used for the bones, soft tissues, and the organs also. Okay, so now for the bones also, organs and soft tissues also we can use it. Now let's see how conventional X-ray works. So a conventional X-ray is a fixed tool, and that sends the X-ray in only one direction, where the CT scanner is a modernized one. This is a modernized one which rotates around the patient, and there the special X-ray, digital X-ray detectors are available. These are the X-ray detectors are available directly opposite to the X-ray source, and the X-ray passes through the patient, and they picked up by the detectors and transmit to the computer, and thereby we can develop the model and help to the physician for developing the model, and helping can be done for the physician. So this is how it works. This is the HU units I was talking about. So the every part of the thing, every part of the body where we are collecting the segmentation, or the DICOM files what we are getting. So segmentation has to be done on the basis, it is being done on the basis of this only. So like the darkest portion what you will see in the X-ray or the images, the DICOM images, that is the air and the fat, water, muscles. all those, and it goes on. So everything has got the different type of HU values, and accordingly we go for the segmentation. We can adjust the value of the segmentation value, HU value we can adjust in the software also, and we can accordingly does the segmentation for us. Let us see how it works. Like this is the 2D digital images what we are getting from MRI or CT or CBCT. This is how we get it. You must have seen, or you must be remembering, if you have seen some CT scan of some patient or some a relative or friend, you must have seen the CT scan. So there are a number of subsequent images are available, or number of successive images are, rather, to be precise, I must say that successive images are available. So these successive images are being stacked. So we do the stagnation. This is the segmentation. This is the procedure of the segmentation. This is how the segmentation takes place. And then this is the stack. We are making the stack. So 2D CBCT data is there, and from 2D CBCT data we can convert it to the virtual skull, what we have prepared here. So this is a three-dimensional image we can develop it here. So this is the converting anatomical data. We can convert the image for working. And then this is how the STL. It is not the STL file. This is the DICOM file actually. This is how after the segmentation, or after using the HU values, they have prepared the DICOM file for the patient. This is the real patient data. I have worked for the hemifacial microsomia disease, and this is the real patient data which I am showing you here. So after that, again, this is the bony view. We can see the bony view also out of the softwares, where the images, again, those images what we were discussing. So those images were stacked together, and this is called as a bony view. And then we can have the kind of a STL format. So this is the STL format, and from there, once you get the STL format, you can easily take it to the machine, take it to your machine. After the corrections of there's some problems are there, some holes holes are visible. So these holes can be corrected. So after correcting the STL file, you can take it directly to the FDM model or SLA or SLS, or even for the bioprinter also. So this is how, this is the pre-processing task actually what we are doing for the medical printing, and this is the very essential task. So this is the procedure we are doing it. Otherwise for the industrial purposes, what we are doing, we are just making the CAD format, CAD data. We are developing the solid model in the CAD softwares, and from CAD softwares we can convert the solid model into the .stl format, and from .stl format directly we can bring it to the machine and feed it to the machine, and machine takes over there without the human intervention. Here typically the things are a little different, but essentially we have to reach up to the 3D, up to the STL format. So through the DICOM files we are coming. After the segmentation, we receive the DICOM file, and from DICOM file, those DICOM files are converted into the STL format, and from here we can go, the process is same. So this is the pre-processing task for the medical printing is little bit different. Now let us see the, actually I am very much interested to give you the introduction regarding the bioprinting, in fact. So because this must be a bit new subject or topic for you, and I just want you to get interested into this particular field, because this is coming up very fast. Let's see one or two videos first, what bioprinting can work. So just go through these videos, 2 videos I will be showing, and you will be amazed to see how bioprinting can works. So let's see this particular video. This is a live animal. This is a live animal here, and you can see it's breathing also. You can see the pumping, heart is pumping. and the 3D printing, bioprinting is working. Similarly, I have another video is also there. I would like to show you. So just you just get the idea how bioprinting can work. This is again some rat is there, and it is also a live animal or a live rat is there, and the bioprinting for healing the tissues on the skin tissues are being used. So this is what this is how it works. I hope I am audible, because I just want to confirm whether I am audible or not. Can
Yes, sir.
somebody-
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. That's fine. That suits. Just a minute. Let me have a glass of water and we'll start again. So this actually 3D bioprinting is also just similar to the other common or conventional techniques what we are using for the 3D printing or additive manufacturing. It is just like that only. Here also the layer by layer the things are being used. But interestingly, this particular technology can be used directly on the human beings or indirectly on the human beings. So this is the advantage, or this is the novelty of this particular technique, as you have seen in previous videos which I have shared. So this can be this particular thing can be used in such a way that for the skin and all, if you want, you can use it. Otherwise you can develop the implants also, live implants. They can be transplanted to the patient. So those activities actually, but this is very common to the conventional technique. We will see how it is very common to the conventional technique, and what kind of a material it is using. So that also we will discuss. This is actually just through a picture. I would like to give you some example that this how it is being used. So there are the bio inks rather than the material what we are using here as a powder or the wire sometimes we are using, or the pellets or the laminates or laminate sheets, or sometimes the photopolymerization materials like resins. Other than that, so here what we are using, the main material is a bio ink, remember. And this particular bio ink, the spheroids of the bio ink can be printed here. I will tell you how it is, what are the base and all those things. So the base here, actually base is used as a gel. Okay, bio paper gel or bio gel is being used as a base, and over that particular gel or over that particular bio gel we are printing the cells, live cells we are printing. So after printing first layer, we can just go for the printing of the next other layer, or subsequent layers can be printed here. And the biogel later on, the bio ink spheroids, they fuse with each other and they get the adhesion with each other cells, because they can join with each other very easily. However, we are using some of the components for joining them, or some sort of other materials we are using so that they join properly. And in bio paper or the gels or hydrogels what we were using, so those hydrogel actually it dissolves because it is having a lot of water is there, so it dissolves. And finally we get the tissue or blood cell or kind of a thing, whatever we are developing, we can get it from here. Now let's see how the bioprinter works. So they are actually, according to the conventional techniques, like in a conventional techniques also there are three procedures are there. First is a processing, another one is a printing, and third one is a post-printing process. So these three processes are here. Also, we have the three processes. The first processing process, the bioprinting process, which we have discussed, that through the diagnostic techniques, any one of the diagnostic techniques we can use, and we can develop the DICOM file, and after the DICOM file, we can just generate the STL format. So this is the pre-processing for the bioprinting. Another one is a bioprinting. There are the different three type of different bioprinting techniques are there, which time permits I will share it with you. Otherwise we'll see in some other class. So with the help of the bioprinting, there are the mainly three type of bioprinting techniques are there, and the printing goes on just like the figure which we have discussed earlier. And then the post-printing actually essentially we need to, because we are playing with the bio cells, or we are playing with the live cells here. So in order to have the cells alive or keep them alive after the printing, because the organ has to be, whatever the organ is we are printing, or whatever the cells we are printing, they are supposed to be alive, otherwise there is no use of bioprinting. So for that we have the bio incubator. So essentially this is the extra process here, where we have to put the things in a bio incubator so that the cells are alive, and before the transplant of the implant to the patient. So this is how we go. Now one particular thing which I want to discuss it, and this is a very interesting thing, in fact, the stem cells. Stem cells actually they are the raw material for the bioprinters or bioinks. Bioinks, in fact, bioink contains other than other materials, bioink contains the stem cells mainly. So the base material is the stem cells. The stem cells are that which can be differentiated into other type of cells. Actually, they differentiate into other different type of cells also, and similar type of cells also, and they can also divide in self renewal to produce more type of similar cells, or the different cells, whatever the case may be. So they can divide over and over in order to produce new cells. As they divide, they change into the other type of the cells also, which are present in the human body. So actually this particular segment, I just want to share it with you, and what are the stem cells and how they are harvested from the human body. This also we will have a little bit this thing. So we can call it as a stem cell is essentially the building blocks of the human body. So these stem cells actually, what the type of the stem cells and how we can harvest them in order to harness the bioprinting process, how we can harvest them. So we will see, we will just go into it. Just look at this particular video, and you will come to know what actually the stem cells are there. Stem cells are the cells which are indifferentiated. That means they do not have any specific job or function. Okay, it's just like I'll show you here once again. So just like a skin cell actually they protect our body. Muscle cells are there, they contract and expand, and the nerve cells are also there, they send the signal. So we all know all these things. So as we discuss, the stem cell actually they do not have any specific structure. Precisely what I mean to say, that they do not have any specific structure is not there. So there are the different type of cells, like bone cells are also there, nerve cell, then liver cell, fat cell. There are more than 220 type of cells are there in our body. So they can different type of stem cells are there, and then interestingly, the stem cells do have the potential to become or convert. Like here you have seen this particular stem cell, this is a stem cell, it can convert into the bone cell also, it can convert into the nerve cell also, it can convert into the liver cell also, and so on. And this can convert into the similar type of stem cell also. What I mean to say precisely that either it can convert to the stem cell itself, or it can change to the particular family, or a different type of a family. Suppose some organ is there in the nerve cell, so different type of now one particular cell can be converted into the nerve cell family also. So this is how it works. Okay, so body in fact actually it uses stem cells basically for the replacement of the worn out cells when they die. Okay, like example, we will see the example here. The human intestine is there. So this particular human intestine actually completely it replaces the lining after every 4 days in our body. So this intestine actually the linings are there, and these linings are being replaced with the new stem cells after every 4 days. So this is the another potential work of the stem cell. What they do that they can repair the worn out part of our body also. So they repair or they replace the worn out cells also in our body continuously. So for a few parts they need the replacement after 4 days, few needs continuously, like within 2 days, 2 hours or 3 hours. So likewise they continuously work. So this is the stem cells. This is how it looks like, as I have discussed in the video also, that stem cell is there. One stem cell can either develop or differentiate into the some more stem cell of its similar nature, or otherwise it can develop like a blood cells are there, the skin cells are there, then neurons are there, all those cells are there. So fat cells are there. So it can convert into any family of the cells, these particular stem cells. Now stem cells actually there are basically 5 type of stem cells are there. So one particular category is known as a totipotent. So this particular totipotent, it can convert into the all different type of cells. And another category is a pluripotent. This particular cell almost it can also turn into almost any type of cells. Okay, and multipotent. Another one is a multipotent. So this particular cell actually converts into the close related family of the cells only. Closely related family of the cells. Like if you are taking the cell from the skin, then it will convert it can convert to the skin only. So this is how. Like if you have taken if you have harvested the cell from the heart or the liver, then it will convert into the liver only. Then Golgi is also there. These particular type of cells actually they can convert into few different type of cell types. Like they have got the potential to be differently used also. And another one is a unipotent. Unipotent actually, which is their own type. So it will be stem cells will be converted into the stem cells only. Now, how do we harvest them from our body? This is a very interesting topic, and I love this particular topic. How we can harvest them? We'll switch on a little bit towards the biology, and a little bit towards the biology we will shift, because the cells are dealing with the human biology only. So we will be slowly going a little bit towards that. So there are the embryonic stem cells are there. So these embryonic stem cells actually they come from the embryos. They are known as embryos, and they are harvested during the process called as a vitro fertilization. In vitro fertilization, when we call it as a in vitro fertilization, that means it is developed in the lab. So you are rightly thinking that I am talking about the production or reproduction of the babies. I'm talking in that particular way only, because slowly we will be going for the for the harvesting, and you will come to know that how harvesting is done. So this in vitro fertilization, actually we all know the basics, we all know how the fertilization is being done. So it is done in the lab also. So that is known as the in vitro fertilization. And this particular fertilization involves the zygote. Zygote is there, then blastocyst is there, and embryos are there. Actually, zygote is the let me show you pictures. So after the fertilization, we get the zygote. So this I am talking in the lab, how they are producing in the lab. So this particular zygote, actually it has got a two cells are only two cells are there, because this is a very early stage of the fertilization where it turns into the zygote. And this particular, after 4 or 5 days, it turns into the blastocyst. This particular blastocyst, actually it is having a number of cells, and it is in the shape of the blastocyst is in the form of the spear. And little vacant part is also there, I mean cavity is also there, and like it is just like a hollow ball only, hollow ball. And the inner cells are a lot, many inner cells are there. So these inner cells, actually they converted, and hollow cavity is also there in the blastocyst. And this particular, after 5 days or 5 to 10 days, this particular thing converts into the embryo. Then it is again in the shape of the ball, but it is not a hollow ball. This is a solid ball, and here inside you can find these cells. So these inner cell mass, actually this converts into the developed cell, or the matured cells. These cells actually, and thereafter from here the baby grows. The baby start growing from here. So you must have heard about the things like in vitro fertilization also, our doctors are doing these days. So this particular embryos are only the source of the stem cells, from where the stem cells can be collected, because these are the very healthy stem cells, and they can convert, because they have to be converted into the baby. So they are the very healthy stem cells, actually we get from here. But unfortunately there are some restrictions are there, or sometimes some contradictions are there. Few legal permissions are required, so there is a contradictions. We will discuss it later. First let us see how we can get it. So this is how you can see. This is the video. Zygote, I'm showing the zygote here, and zygote is just turning. This particular cell is known as a totipotent stem cell, which we have discussed. And then this is how the zygote is converting into the blastocyst. And blastocyst, you can see the empty part is also there, and there are the different type of cells are there, and from there we get the embryonic stem cells. So these are the embryonic, and embryonic stem cells are actually the pluripotent type of the cells. So pluripotent of the cells means they can convert it into the any desired family or a different family. And this is the hydrogels. Again we are having the hydrogels here. So as a hydro paper, because it is being used in the lab. So in this particular I mean this is developed in the lab, so that is why it is known as a in vitro fertilization. So now another source of harvesting the stem cells is a adult stem cells. These adult stem cells, actually they are being collected from the body of the adult human being. So this can be collected either it can be collected with the through the blood also, it can be collected, or it can be collected from the different type of organs of the body, and this particular cells are being used for the bioprinting to recover or replace the damaged tissues in the same area where they form. Suppose if we are talking about the skin cell, then definitely it will be converting, or it will be repairing, or it will be repairing the area of the skin. So we will be showing the video. I will be showing you video and how it is repairing the skin video. I will show you here. So most common way of the way to harvest these particular cells are the removing the temporarily. We remove the blood from the body and then separate it. The stem cells can be separated because blood is always having the RW cells are there. So I mean, white blood cells are also there, and different type of things are there. Even plasma is also there, and all those things are there, and stem cells are also there. So there is a cell separator machine is there. We just put the temporarily, we remove the blood from the human body, and then we we separate the stem cells, and again we inject the blood back to the human body. So this is the another technique of the harvesting, and this is a very common technique actually. There is being used for the particular organ or the particular kind of organ which we want to repair. Like a damaged organ is there. Suppose the liver is damaged, so the cells can be taken. Those pluripotent cells can be taken from there, and they can be converted into the they can be converted into the liver cell, and they can be used to repair the damaged part of the liver. So similarly for other organs also. So this is actually the skin cell, actually skin, how the adult cell is being taken and how the skin is being used, or it is being. So these particular things, type of cells which I have discussed, that the multipotent cells are there. So these multipotent cells actually they just convert into the similar kind of a family only. So similar families only, and then the new stem cells can be developed from new stem cell. Again it will develop the skin cell only. So skin cell can be replaced, and it can be used again. So this is the skin cell, this is the stem cell, and regular body cell, which is the example. So this is actually skin, from skin only we have taken the cell. So that particular thing is working for the skin cell only. So pluripotent, this kind of harvesting is known as a pluripotent. Now there is another harvesting technique is also known as a bone marrow. This particular bone marrow, actually from bone marrow actually we can collect the different type of cells which are known as a hematopoietic cells are there, and these are having the RBD and WBC. So again around 1 liter of blood, or the bone marrow, not blood, bone marrow can be extracted from the near the hip bone, and it can be taken through the syringe, and then it can be used. The cells can be generated for the same patient. Now interestingly, why do we want to take the cells from the patients only? In my previous lecture, somebody was asking me that everybody is having a different type of a blood group. So how these cells can be put together, or how these cells can work there. So that is why we just take we prefer to take the adult cell. Actually, adult cell can be taken, and either from the bone marrow or from the adult cell, like which we have discussed earlier. Compatibility matches perfectly. And there are different type of in case if we are taking from the in vitro cells, like which we have discussed, that in vitro cells can be also used for the patients to the near family if the DNA is matching. So definitely it can be used. Those cells can also be used. Like I will tell you one example. I will tell you, I have read some particular example. I will give you the example for that. So another one is the umbilical cord. Umbilical cord is another source of harvesting the stem cells. umbilical cord, actually this is when the baby take birth, so that time the cord is there. At the time of the childbirth, some cord is attached with the mother and baby, so that is cut and thrown. It is rather, I would say that it is most of the time it is a bio waste only. And same time the placenta also, the placenta where the baby is kept, and when it is taking born, so that particular cover which was covering the baby inside the mother, so that particular thing also becomes the uh, waste, bio waste. So these two things are actually the main source, and it can be harvested. uh, Very healthy cells we get from there, like in vitro cells. As I told you, that embryo is having the very healthy uh, cells, like stem cells. So here also the very healthy stem cells are available. The existence is found here. So usually in foreign countries, what happens that these days, whenever the baby takes birth, so they just cut the cord and take the consent of the parents, and they take the placenta also, and they just use the stem cell for the research purposes. Even here also it can be done, and I don't know, in some big hospitals like AIMS and all, they are doing it. So that can also be done. Otherwise it can be preserved also, and it can be later on help to the blood cancers, leukemia, and other genetic disorders of the baby, can be repaired with the help of the umbilical cord or the placenta, or the cells retrieved from the placenta. So this is the bone marrow. Actually, from bone marrow, there are white blood cells are there, red blood cells are there, platelets are also there, and the blood stem cells are also there. So these are the part of the stem cells, or byproduct of the stem cells only. So directly the stem cells can be used here. You must have seen for some of the patients, we need to have the platelets. They say the platelets is down. So platelets, actually they are the so they extract from the blood, same blood group they take, and from there they extract the platelets, and it can be used like some dengue or something, some disease is there. So here what they are using, here they are not using all these things. Here they are using the stem cell itself, which is the root of these byproducts. So they can it can be used. So this is a very useful. And the hematopoietic cells can be as we have discussed, from the cord it can be cut. The cord can be cut and it can be used for the blood forming. Actually, these particular cells are very much important for blood forming cells. So now most of the time when we want to print the blood cells and kind of a thing, or some different type of cells where they need little blood forming procedures, so there they are using hematopoietic cells. They are using it. Okay. Now, potential use, it is again quickly I will go to the potential use, like it is treating and understanding the diseases. Then in vitro we can have the new cells, we can grow the new cells. Then research genetic defects can be repaired with the help of the 3D printing. And then other new diseases can be, so for all those purposes medical people are using, but we can use it for the implants. Now the ethical concern, this is a very important thing, that the ethical concern we are having. See, there are two type of groups are there. So one particular group of the researchers, they say that the embryo is a living human being, because once the cell is developed and embryo is developed, definitely it will convert to the baby. So why you are using these cells, or why you should use the cells, in vitro cells from the embryo, because it is just like a killing. Whereas the supporter of the stem cell research, they say that it is not yet developed as a human. It is just cell only. Embryos are not yet human beings. they are just cells only, and after the fertilization, it has been developed. So there are two different type of groups are there, and ethical concern are there. So one case study I will discuss it with you, that one particular person, it is a foreign case study. Of course, one particular husband, he was having a problem, some genetic issue was there, or some implant has to be developed, and that implant has to be implanted in his in the body of the husband. So now they were not getting the stem cells, and since he was having some genetic problem also, it was very difficult to take the cells from the bone marrow also. So they were unable, doctors were unable. So with the consent of the husband and wife, what they did, they have gone to the in vitro laboratory, and there they have developed the cell. So in vitro laboratory, so that was a perfect matching for the husband. Although it was taken from the embryo after the fertilization itself, but those cells could be used, and the patient was recovered. So this is how the in vitro cells can help, I believe. So this was a perfect example. However, there has to be concern has to be taken from the from both male and females for taking the cells from the embryo. Other cells are not required any consents. Only just smaller consent is taken from the parents for the for embryonic cell or embryonic or cord, or from the or in case if you are going to harvest from the bone marrow or the blood or something. So just consent from the patient is only required. So there are the I think I'm going into the deep, so I will just quickly go ahead. So there are the hydrogels and bioinks are also there. So how it takes, I'll show you the video how the cell bioprinting take place. So this is the actually animation is being shown. So these are the conventional medias are there, then the cells are being printed, and cells this is how, and different type of cells can be printed. So they are collecting one particular type of a cell only. So optimal formulation has to be done, and the different type of cells can be collected. Suppose we are doing it for the human skin. So you can see there are a number of layers are there in the skin also. So different type of cells are required for each layer of the skin. So see, you can see the different type of cells. They have a different type of cells which is matching with the layer of the skin is being used, and the cells can be and the printing can be done with the similarly, and the damaged part can be repaired. There are the hydrogels also. So these hydrogels actually, they are the micromolecular polymer gels, and which are having actually, interestingly, it is having a net-like structure. Okay, it is a cross-linked polymer chains are there, so net link structure is there, and they are having the voids are also there. बहुत सारे उसमें gaps होते हैं. I'm sorry for using Hindi. So there are some voids are also there. So those voids actually, they are capable of holding the lot of water. So once the water can be developed, so it becomes the it enables it to have the self-healing characteristics. So that is why the hydrogels are being used. Hydrogels are being used for the bioprinting as a biopaper also, and for the scaffolds also, and for sometimes for the mixing as a additives we are mixing in the bioink. So these are the kind of hydrogels. I will not go into the detail because I am running shortage of time. Although it is a very interesting topic, or maybe some other time. I'll just give you the introduction only. Then there are other things are there. Then alginates. So these alginates are also actually polysaccharide. These are the polysaccharide distribution. Again, the long chain of polymeric carbohydrates are there. So this what happens when it comes in contact with the water, so it forms a sort of a glue kind of a thing. So alginates can also be used as a hydrogel also, or along with the hydrogel also. So whenever it is coming with the help with the water or hydrogen, because carbohydrates are there, polymeric carbohydrates. So again, it is a polysaccharide distribution is there. So you can have the chain of the polymeric carbohydrates. And interestingly, when it absorbs, it is also having the voids. So whenever it absorbs the water, it uses it becomes the viscous gum kind of a thing, and it can be used for the bioinks. So I'll not go. I'll show you how it looks like. This is a kind of hydrogels, and these are the alginates, and these it looks like this. Similarly, these are the hydrogels you have seen. So I'll skip. I'll go to the bioink. So there are different type of bioinks are there, and just imagine, I will just give you the idea that bioink material is made of from the living cells, and it is in the liquid form. Okay, so it is having a liquid form only. Okay, and bioinks are the material. It supports the adhesion and proliferation. Proliferation is means converting or dividing into regression of the parts, whatever the parts we are doing it. So proliferation also, and differentiation also from for the cells which we are taking or harvesting from the mammalians. So that can be that is being done. And bioinks are living cells suspended in the hydrogel housed in printed cartridge, just like a cartridges what we are having for the our home printers, like a paper printers. So similarly, the cartridges are there, and the bioinks are bioink. Actually, they are filled where the alginates are also there, hydrogels are also there, or sometimes they are either alginate or only the hydrogel. It depends case to case, and whatever the recommendations are all there, or what kind of things we are printing. So the cartridges are there, and basic function of this bioink is regeneration of the tissues. Okay, tissues regeneration, and generally on the superficial basis only. So this is how bioink. I'll not go deep. There are type of bioink. This is actually. Now we'll go to the process. How it takes process. So 5 steps are there basically for the bioprinting. There are 5 steps. So first, identify function being replaced. What function it has to be, that bio cell or the stem cell, what function it will be carrying out, or what function it has to be replaced, and then determine the cell types, what type of cells we will be using. So there are different type of cells we have discussed. And then biomaterial, what sort of biomaterial will be there. So biomaterial, and then determine the construction method. So there are 3 type of construction methods are there. I will discuss it if I get the time. I will just discuss it in the short. So determine the construction methods, and then go for the construction. So these are the actually 5 steps are there. Now let us take one by one. So these cells actually choose the cell type of functions. Okay, and the constraints are there. The strength of cells has to be determined, and the rejection and immune responses. This is a very important. Just a minute. Give me a sec. Yeah. So first and foremost thing is the rejection and immune responses. This is the constraint actually. So here actually doctors, they just decide whether this particular cell will perfectly suit, or immune responses, how the immune responses will be there. It is not like that. We can take the cell from anywhere and we can implant to any person. So that rejection will be there, immune responses rejection will be there, and rather than doing good, it will be a very bad. So a medical team, it is supposed to be under the supervision of a perfect trained medical team. Then the determination of the biomaterial type. So what type of biomaterial we will be using, either a collagen type or elastin type or polyes type also. These are the biomaterials, different type of biomaterials are there. We will not focus into it because this was not our topic of discussion today. We may take it some other time. Then the cell survival during the printing. So oxygen is required for the cells. Then certainly the nutrients are also required, and the temperature is also required. So these three things actually, they are to be taken care of perfectly, that what kind of cells you are using and how the provision of nutrients and oxygen and temperature should be optimum, so that cell should not die at the time of the printing. And these all things are taken care by the nicely developed bioprinters. There are different type of bioprinters available. There are, other than the bioprinter, there are biofabricators are also these days available. So they are little cheaper than the bioprinters. So that can also be used, and certainly after the process is completed, then we can go for the bio incubators, where the cell print, after the cell printing we can use them, and we can keep it there. Then application, let us see the application. So tissue mimics is there, drug testing is there, screening is there, even a heart valve can be done. Can you imagine that although we are working, one of my student is working on that, we can print the tablets also. Can you imagine? And those tablets can have a different type of a drug release rate, which can act fast on the patients. So that is also one of the potential use of bioprinting in the medical field. That can also be there. So it has also got the pharmacy, even the pharmaceutical is having a very good, very potential uses of the 3D printing. So in near future, actually around 10 years, we would be able to, this skin has already developed, cartilage is already developed, but they have not been transplanted, or in few of the universities they have done the transplantation also. So near future we will be seeing this transplantation of the tissue, and tissue engineering will be coming up. A lot of Indian scientists are also working in our country also. So tissue engineering will be coming up very fast, and far future, like within after 20 years, when you guys will be in your professional careers, you can hear or you can see that the kidney, heart, or implants, liver can be transplanted. So it is growing in such a faster rate that in coming years, no wonder that you hear that someone from your known person is getting 3D printed kidney transplanted. So it will be eliminating the chances of the donation or searching the donor for the kidneys and all. The challenges, there are the different type of challenges are there. Like vascularization is there. It should have the vascularization when the cells are printed. Then immune rejection, we have discussed the immune rejection has to be there, perfectly checked up with the team of the doctors. And the biocompatibility, of course the biocompatibility is to be matched. It has to be checked with the engineers and doctors together. So that these are the challenges. This is one particular video I would like to share, that just a small clip which is taken by me, and you can see the cells, the live cells are being printed. This I have visited one lab in North Carolina of United States. So this I have taken in December 2019. So this is how they were printing, and I have taken the clip from the laboratory with the permission. So this is how you can see the live cells are being printed, and there is a cartridge available. Cartridges, different type of cartridges are for the all different cells. Different cartridges are there, and robot it picks up the similar cartridge or the kind of a cartridge of the cells which or kind of the cells which it wants to print. So it can be picked up, and just like a it's just like our milling machine is picking up the different type of tool. So the similarly it is picking up different type of a cartridge which is having a different some specific cells. So this is kind of a thing, and these are the acknowledgement for uh, oh yeah, I would like to share it. I would like to share the things this I have told you, although I have cut short the things here because the time is limiting. So there are three type of bioprinters are there. One is a inkjet printer. It works like a ink, and this cartridge cell is there. Another one, it works on the basis of the laser. So through the laser beam, it works. And then extrusion also is there. Mechanically, we can extrusion can be done. Like I can show you some of the rather than some of the video. I can show you one or two video. See, this is the laser assisted bioprinting, how it works. So laser pulses are sent, and through the mirror it just accurately it this is a mirror, and it next to the lenses it goes, and the ribbon or the bio ink is just being done here. So this is how it works like. So through the mirror and lens it comes, and the printing of the laser cell can be done. And I hope if I have the yeah, this is the cartridge kind of a thing. This is how the cartridge take place. So this is how cartridge. You can see the printing. It is having a different type of cells. All the cartridges are there. Different cartridges are there. So you can see muscle cells are there. These are different stem cells are there. So any cells can be used here for the printing. I'll just increase. I'll increase the video because we are running shortage of time. So this is how the printing can be done. It is again the layer by layer. The hydrogel is being poured. You can see either alginates or hydrogel, and then again another layer is being formed here. Again they will pour the hydrogel or the alginates, or the different type of cells also can be. So I'll see if I have another video. So this is another video. Oh, okay. This is not the one. This we are going into the tissue engineering, so I will not switch on there. So okay. Any? So here we thanks. And any question? I don't know whether I am audible or not, or
Yes.
Okay, guys. There we go. It was a bit long session. I apologize that I have taken little longer session, but I love to finish all the things, whatever I want to discuss. At least things should be clear and some information should be transferred. My experience should be transferred properly. So hopefully I was able to transfer some of the knowledge and some of the informations regarding the bioprinting. Thank you very much. If any question is there, I'm open for the questionnaire.
Yes, participants, if you have any questions, so directly ask to sir. Unmute your mic.
Or in case if you are running shortage of time, then I can give you my email and you can write it to me also if you are interested to work or something. So nitb.ravi@gmail.com. Here you can get me. You can get me here. So yes, Ambed, not exactly the bioprinting is not being done, but yes, NIT Nagpur is doing some work and they have got the fabric, they have got the lab, quite a developed lab is there, and Dr. Kuthe is there. So he's working in biofabrication and some incubators are there, but it is again the project they are doing. I do not know. They are not working exactly for the patient customized one, but yes, they are working on some project.
Chandra sir, do you have some question?
Yes, sir. Sir,
Yes, sir.
Especially when it comes to biomedical, so while designing products for different countries, is there any restrictions with the regulations that are taken into consideration?
Pardon?
Regulations in India might be different. Regulations in India might be different from the regulations in the West.
Yes, that's
US or Europe.
what I have discussed. That regulations are there. Even if we want to suppose I'm working with the AIMS Bhopal. So one or two projects I have taken up. So there also we are having some restrictions are there and regulations are there. Ethical permissions has to be taken, and before going to the human being, we have to go. Essentially, we have to test the things on the animals. So those kind of regulations are there, and they are very strict. That's what I have discussed earlier in our previous slides. I have discussed that these are the restraints, but they are not the constraints. Restraints are there, and it takes little time to have it. So yes, there are the restrictions are there, but developed countries are more flexible into it. However, they are also having they have to take the ethical permissions before going for it. But yes, their things are a bit easier. Here things are a bit tough.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
So any questions from participants?
I would like to take the feedback if something is to be included or something is to be. I would like to take the feedback also, Dr. Chitransh. If
Yes,
someone
yes.
can give me the feedback.
Actually, feedback is centralized, which is filled by AICT portal
Okay.
at the last day of.
Hello, Ashish.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Ask some question.
आवाज येतोय का माझा? बरं बरं, ठीक आहे, चालतं. पण तू उद्या येणार आहे का?
I think he is talking in.
तुला काय त्रास आहे?
I think you have to mute your mic, sir.
Yes.
Kashinath, sir. Yes. So, any other question?
Thanks a lot, sir, for sharing your valuable knowledge on biomedical field with the help of additive manufacturing. And this is the advanced process, and this is the future of additive manufacturing in the field of biomedical.
Yes, thank you very much for Dr. Chetransh for giving me the opportunity to meet with these participants and
Yes, yes, yes.
to share my ideas with them. Thank you very
Yes.
much. Thanks to you also that you have made me interacted with so many people.
Yes,
It
sir.
was
Thanks.
a really nice audience. My thanks to the audience also. You have been cooperated. You have been quite cooperative. Thanks a lot.
Thanks. Thank you.
Thanks everybody.